Hello and welcome back to another edition of Check It Out. Okay friends, if you're watching this video, you're probably having hip pain, wondering about hip surgery, and maybe you even had the surgery and you're wondering about the recovery. Guys, I'm going to tell you my experience with my hip, the surgery. I'm going to take you all the way back to when I first had some pain, and I'm going to walk you all the way through today, which is, I'm going to call it a 1-year kind of review and follow up of where I'm at. The honest truth is it's been basically 11 months, so I'm not quite at a year, but can we call it that anyway? All right, thanks. So let's start from the start. Number one is I am not a doctor, nowhere near the medical field. This is not medical advice. I'm just some guy who likes sports, who injured his hip, had a surgery, and now I'm trying to document it so other people can maybe learn from it, or at least realize what you might be in for if you're gonna have a surgery like this. So let me take you back. Well, maybe I'll take you forward. Okay, so 45-year-old male. I am 6'1", weigh about 235 pounds, pretty muscular, could probably use to lose 15 to 20 pounds. If I really wanted to lean out, that would probably be a smart thing to do. That's part of the reason I put that scale in here, is I think that a big part of my success is going to be trying to go from like a pretty stocky, muscular guy to maybe like a leaner type of a frame. I think it would really help out my hip. So that's been a bit of a up and down, and trying out the paleo diet and some other things too. Again, I'm not recommending any diets, but I'm just kind of telling you I think it would help me a lot, and maybe you too if you're in that same situation. So let me tell you a little bit of background. I am an outdoors guy. I love sports, whether it's alternative sports, the skateboarding, surfing, whatever you have. Snowboarding I did for many years. And also like baseball, soccer, just loved sports as a kid all the way up through my current situation, although it's taken me out of a lot of sports with this hip issue. And I'm going to answer some of the questions that you guys have down below too. So keep on listening and we'll try to get to some of that stuff. So the first time I ever had pain, somebody was asking that. So when I was a kid, again, I played every sport. I pitched in high school, little league, and then in high school, and then a little bit after high school as well. Pretty good pitcher, very muscular pitcher. I could muscle the ball, I could throw it very, very hard, but it was also pretty tough on my body. So pitching with I'm right-handed, so my left leg would be the lead leg, and it was a motion that would kind of come down and I'd land on that leg and sort of twist my body around that left hip. And I think that might be the first time that I injured that hip, and maybe the first time that that labrum had a little bit of a tear to it. So that's the first time I actually had pain. And where I'm at today and through sports over the last 20 years or whatever, basically when I went in for the pain, and I'll kind of talk about that, how I got there and how it built up. But the surgery I had was the FAI for the left hip. And once they actually went in there, they realized that I had totally torn up the labrum. It was just shredded up. And then also the cartilage was ripped and torn, and just, they tried to fix some of it they could, some of it they just had to remove. So it was pretty ugly. So if you're getting ready for this surgery, they were telling me that I'm a little bit unusual in the amount of damage that I had before I went in for the surgery. So hopefully yours would have even a better, smoother, easier recovery with a better chance for success than I did. But what they did, my understanding was only about 5% of the people who have the surgery have to do this, is they did a microfracture. And what that means is they put tiny little holes, they drill tiny little holes into your bone, and then the marrow comes out and sort of forms like a hard layer, cartilage-like layer on the outside of the bone to try to prevent that bone-on-bone type of arthritis, really, I guess it is. So anyway, that's the one I had, and there's a little bit less success, I believe, with that one because, well, it's more damage, it's a more intense surgery, etc., etc. So let's walk from the first time I had pain at the age of, let's just call it like 18 years old. Maybe it was a little bit earlier than that. Maybe it was a little bit later, something in there. But that's kind of where it all started. And just every once in a while when I twist a certain way, or like snowboarding a lot, I would kind of have a pain in that hip area. And then it would kind of go away after a day or two. It wasn't a big deal. And I basically ignored it and toughed my way through it. I just loved sports so much, nothing was going to slow me down. So then I got into my 30s and was still playing basketball a lot every night at that time. Outdoor courts for an hour, probably 5 days a week. Absolutely loved it. And then that hip would start flaring up more and more. So typically what would happen is I would be in pain for maybe 3 or 4 days, and then the pain would go away and I'd feel like I'm back to normal and fine. And then I'd play my sports, and then about 2 to 3 weeks later, that pain would come back. And as I aged, the number of days where it felt good was getting smaller, and the amount of days, so as I aged, the number of days where it was in pain was getting longer, and the amount of days where I was feeling good would be shorter, and the amount of pain was getting a little bit more intense. So it was just kind of progressively getting a little bit worse and a little bit worse and a little bit worse. And then finally, when I was in my early 40s, I found myself limping around the house sometimes, limping around at my occupation, at my job. And it just, my wife kind of looked at me like, you got to do something. This is ridiculous. So I did. I went into the doctors and basically said, you should have been here a few years ago. But they said that they have this sort of alternative to a new hip. And unfortunately, I was kind of at that stage where I guess there wasn't a whole lot that they could do. It was either like a hip replacement or this FAI surgery. I don't know. I thought there'd be some more options, but it didn't sound like, at least for my case, that there was. So we tried the FAI surgery. It sounds to me like with the amount of damage they ended up finding when I actually went in there, that I'm really not a great case study for this, that the amount of damage I had might be a little bit more than this surgery is really made for. I think. So anyway, I don't know what the next step would be if I had to do something more. So, okay, now let's get caught up to date with where I'm actually at. So 11 months after surgery-ish, and the first few months, well, you'll have to go back and kind of watch those. And again, I think there's like 20 videos, so subscribe to the channel. Look at my playlist and you'll see that I've got a playlist under hip surgery, and I made a video just a few hours after the surgery, and then I made a video like every day for a week, and then I started backing off a little bit, but you'll see that I documented kind of the whole thing. So if you're serious about the surgery, I'd go back and watch that and check it out. So the last 6 months, let's kind of focus in on that. My pain it was in a similar location to where it used to be. And my pain was sort of in the back, deep in the hip, kind of in the back of the hip, if you will. And not towards the front, which they kept asking me, is it in the front, in the front? And I'm like, no, it's not. It's in the back. So I think it was more common for them to see the injury towards the front of the hip. So anyway, the pain that I would get once in a while after the surgery, would be in the front, would be in the side, and sometimes in the back. And in my mind, I was just thinking, you know what? It's probably scar tissue that just has to like work through. And I think that was maybe the case, just kind of part of the recovery process. And I wanted to make sure I wasn't being too much of a wimp with it, if you will. But at the same time, I've already made a mistake by trying to tough out the pain. And, that's how I got as deep into the situation as I currently am, having to do this surgery and causing a lot of damage in that hip. So anyway, I had multiple times where I was ready to call the doctor and make another appointment and just say, hey, this feels like it's more pain than it's supposed to be in. But inevitably, as soon as I would think about making a phone call, the pain would go away for a couple days and it would subside. And I'd go 10 days with almost no pain in that hip. Now I was doing very, very little sports, basically none, no sports at all. Very little exercise, light yoga, that kind of stuff, but no serious sports at all. And then it would go a few weeks, and then all of a sudden it would kind of flare up again. And it felt like the pain was sort of in that same location. So I'd be like, dang it. And I'd get ready to call my surgeon again and make an appointment to kind of talk it through. And I think at one point I maybe even did make an appointment, and then the pain went away, of course. So it seems like the last year has been sort of that same wave of roller coastering, like having some pain and it goes away, and having some pain and it goes away. It's not a consistent thing at all. So the last 15 days, I would say I've been essentially pain-free, can walk around the house, can go upstairs, downstairs, do my occupation without limping. I am intentionally taking it easy though. I am not doing any sports. I'm not running around with the kids. I'm just kind of walking around with the kids. So I'm purposely taking it easy. And the reason for that is that just about 7 and 8 weeks ago, I was having a session where I was in pain there, and I was about to call the surgeon again. In fact, my wife was begging me to. And again, that pain kind of went away. So I'm trying to connect the dots and see if it's gradually getting better. If the amount of times where I'm in pain is slowing down and the amount of pain I'm in is getting less. And it's hard to say. So just 6 weeks ago, I would have to go up the steps in my house one leg at a time, like right step, right step, right step, and then drag my left foot up. I might be exaggerating that a little bit. Maybe I didn't have to drag it up, but you know what I'm saying. Like I'd put the majority of my weight on my other leg, especially going up or downstairs. So that brings me to today. My surgeon has told me, you know, as I'd go in and meet with him, he said that, look, you should be getting a little bit better and a little bit better, but his big picture was you really won't know where you're at until 1 year. And at 1 year, we'll have a really good idea of how this process is going to go, whether this was successful or whether it was not successful. And again, I think a lot of that recovery time is the microfracture. So my hip, I tore up the labrum. It was basically shredded. Also, the cartilage underneath it had a lot more damage than they thought. So I did do MRIs. I did the all kinds of x-rays and all that stuff. But even with all that, they kind of warned me. They're like, we don't really know for sure until we actually do the surgery and dive in there and take a look at what's going on. So I think they were a little bit surprised at how much damage there was after they actually went in there. So that's why I had to do the microfracture. They say only about 5% of the people have to do the microfracture. That's where they drill the small holes into your bone marrow comes out and forms a crust-like, cartilage-like material on the outside of the bone that is going to kind of replace the cartilage. Something along those lines. Again, guys, I am not a doctor, nowhere in the doctor field. This is not medical advice. So I'm just kind of doing the best I can to tell you guys about my experience. But anyway, so I think that's what kind of caused my recovery to be a little bit longer. So I'm kind of rambling here, but here's the long and short of it. It's been 11 months. I would say that I am about 80% confident that this surgery worked as well as I was hoping it would, but I still have about 20% of me that has doubt. So I was hoping I'd be able to go mountain biking and maybe go for a nice like quick walk for like a mile or two, or maybe even a light jog, or do some stuff like that. It doesn't seem like it's in the cards for me, at least not yet. So I'm still at the really kind of take it easy and treat the leg real fragile. And again, I'm trying to build the muscle around it. And I did go to PT, the physical therapy, for many, many months after. I'm going to call it like 5 or 6 months right after the surgery. But now I'm kind of on my own, and I have a couple of exercises or routines that I do to try to build strength in there. But it's basically just kind of going off what the PT said and then kind of making it my own a little bit. Again, no advice on that one. You'll have to figure out your own game plan on that one. All right, guys, so I think that kind of brings you up to speed. And, you know, I wish I had better news. I wish I could say I was back to my old self doing 100% of what I used to do. It's not in the cards for me yet, that's for sure. But I'll tell you, it is really nice to be able to walk around my house. The last 2 to 3 weeks, I've been pain-free, up the stairs, down the stairs, you know, picking weeds, running around. Not running around with the kids, sorry. The kids are running around. I'm sort of walking around with them. But totally pain-free, and I haven't felt that way in a while. So that was really nice. All right, guys, listen, I'm probably going to do maybe one more update on this in a couple months out. So if you have any questions, put them in the comment section below, but you're going to have to be patient, and I'll try to answer those in my next video. I hope this video helps you guys out. Keep in mind, no medical advice here, just some sports guy in his mid-40s who is suffering from this pain and trying to figure out what to do. Hope this helps you out. We'll see you next time. Check the description down below, and thanks for supporting the channel by subscribing and also checking out the description. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.